Hey guys, Cody here with Academy Success, and this is video number 2, myth number 2 in the 4 biggest myths of wealth creation series. So what we're going to talk about in this video is fear. But before we get into fear, and before we get into the myth of this video, I want you to make sure that you've checked out the last video, or at least find the link to that I'm going to show you in this post just right below the video. The reason I want you to check that out before we get too far into this series is because it's kind of foundational to a lot of the way people are going to build wealth, and that's working a normal 9-to-5 job. And a lot of people think that you can't do this just because they hear this and just because it's one of those common beliefs. They think it's true. So I want you to make sure you check that out, and even check it out again if you saw it before and maybe it didn't hit home or something, because that one's really, really important for you to be able to create wealth if you're in one of those normal 9-to-5 jobs like most people are. All right, so let's go ahead and dig into this myth. Myth number 2 here is only money people should invest. And this is a huge, huge limiting belief, and we're going to go into why in this post here. So the myth goes something like this. The sayings that people say are, only money people should invest. You have to be a math whiz or a numbers person for this investing stuff to work. I just don't know enough about money. All of that stock market stuff is too complicated, and I'll never be able to do all the investing stuff. I'm just not that smart. Okay, just pay attention to the language there. I've heard these phrases muttered, and anytime I talk to someone about money, and anytime I talk to someone who's not very experienced, these are the things that I hear. These are the variations that I hear over and over and over as long as I've been studying personal finance. So there's one thing that's existing in all of these phrases, and that's fear. It's fear of the unknown. It's fear of something that you don't really know a whole lot about. What happens is you end up getting scared of something that you haven't had a lot of exposure to, and it's a little bit intimidating. Sure, it's only natural. But what ends up happening is your fear takes over. Your fear takes over your subconscious, and that tries to protect you from just a little bit of an intimidating and scary situation, and that ends up limiting you dearly, and it ends up costing you quite a bit. So your subconscious just ends up making up all of those excuses so you don't have to get into that scary situation. So what this is called in the field of psychology is rationalization, and I'll provide a link for some more reading on that if you want to. But this is one of the major tendencies of human behavior that holds us all back and limits us, is that rationalization. But don't feel bad, it's not your fault. This is just instinct that's kind of passed down over time through years and years of us trying to survive. The fact is, very few people actually possess the natural ability to welcome and conquer fear head on. It's mostly a learned behavior over time. People realize the benefits of it once they've done it once, and this becomes a learned behavior. So they just relentlessly bust through barrier after barrier because they know how much it's going to benefit them after the short-term pain that they might undergo. And they end up being highly successful because of it, because they don't end up giving into those fears. But most people actually do give into these fears and beliefs, and it ends up costing them dearly, especially in financial situations, because that's directly related to your income and how much money you can put in your pocket. So I don't want this to be you, and we're going to talk about how to avoid that situation in this video. So a little bit of effort goes a long way here. When you give into fear and you let your rationalizations take over, what ends up happening is you immediately shut down and you take no action to try to change. This is why so many people stay stuck in their ways their entire lives. They really fail to ever recognize their limits, the limits they're putting on themselves, and they just end up kind of riding on the hamster wheel of life. They've convinced themselves that they're a certain way, and they never change, and there's nothing they can do about it. And that's just really not true. So how does this relate to money? Well, it's through this kind of limiting self-talk, these kind of limiting beliefs, that being poor and living a lifestyle of poor money management can end up becoming part of your identity, part of who you are. If you're sitting there constantly telling yourself, well, I'm just bad with money, or I'm not a money person, or I'm not good with numbers, then that's what you're going to be. You're never going to be able to bust through that fear, and it literally becomes part of your identity and who you are, okay? So you got to bust through that. So here's a tip for you. A lot of people in this situation will say something like, well, I've got other things to do rather than try to learn about stocks or learn about investing or learn about money. So here's the thing. Time's going to pass anyway. Time passes every single day. This is one of the core things that I teach in my productivity course. It passes whether you try to improve yourself or not, okay? So I say, why not give it a try, right? What have you got to lose? You can only gain by educating yourself. So here's what can end up happening if you choose to ignore those limiting beliefs and you try anyway. This is a story of my own limiting beliefs and kind of how I got from that situation of being limited and to where I am right now. So first off, I'm gonna preface this by saying I'm not really that great at math. This isn't something I was naturally gifted with. It's not something that I've just told myself and I've never tried. I've had a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of frustrating, head-smashing nights on a lot of 4-hour exams, studying for calculus and accounting and finance and all of the stuff that it took for me to graduate with my MBA. I finally got through all that, but it never really came easy to me. And the thing is, that actually made it a lot easier for me to tell myself that I was never going to be able to excel with money, because at one point I ended up equating being good with money to being good at math. That's just kind of the relation that I made in my head. It just made sense at the time. But then a funny thing happened. I ended up starting to make a lot more money. And I knew that I wanted to protect it and I wanted it to grow. And if I wanted to create a good life for myself, then I would need to become a money person, or I would need to figure out, okay, what do I do with this money so I'm not going to blow it all or lose it all? And I had to figure that out. So time passes anyway, right? So I said, screw it. I'm going to try. I'm going to try to figure this thing out. I might as well give it a shot. So when it ends up happening, I try my luck in the stock market. I open a brokerage account, made some trades. I opened an IRA. I got into some mutual funds through a recommendation from a friend of mine. Started maxing that out. Even made some money with my investments here and there. Did okay. Didn't do great. It wasn't perfect from the start, I won't lie. I had to learn. I made some mistakes. I lost a little money here and there, but I ended up coming out on top, and I'm well ahead now from that point in my life. But if I had just given into my limiting beliefs and my fears, there's no doubt in my mind that there's no way I'd be where I am today. So that's what I want you to recognize is, yes, it might be a little bit of a struggle to go through and educate yourself about these things and to try, but if you don't try, you're never going to get past that point where you're at right now. So what I want to talk about next is that creating wealth is not so much about what you know past a certain point. It's about your behavior and how you implement those things. So from that point, I learned about not just the ins and outs of investing. I learned about psychology of money, financial automation, that creating wealth is much more about behaviors and habits and what you execute on a daily basis than it was about stock picking and equations and analysis of all these, complex things that go on with investing. And if you want a good read on that, check out The Millionaire Next Door, which is a very good read, and I'll link to it in the post for some really good stories and data about all of that stuff. So fast forward to today. It's actually my 31st birthday as I post this video, and I'm in a fairly good financial situation that's improving every single day. All because I chose to ignore that initial fear that I'm just not a money person, or I'm not a math person or a numbers person, and I chose to try. So that's what I want you to do, is I want you to choose to try. If you work in the financial industry, you're probably gonna be better off with solid quantitative and analytical skills, and they're not going to hurt you with investing. But I don't want you to think that you have to be a numbers person. It's not necessary to build a solid portfolio that can grow into a lot of money over time. All you have to do is educate yourself about the ins and outs and just change your behaviors a little bit. It's really not all that difficult. And the thing is about that is, wealth creation has never been easier. The barriers to getting invested are as low as they will ever be, and they'll continue to be lower. You can get a brokerage account open and get invested in the same day. that used to take weeks, if not months. You can get a life cycle 401k fund and never touch it and just let that do the work for you throughout your entire life. There's even automated investing services out there like Betterment, for example, that allow you to choose a goal and then they do the rest for you. Completely automated. You really don't have to do a whole lot. And that's just the easy part now. Creating wealth, the magic in creating wealth, it's not about the getting invested anymore. It's about educating yourself initially and then just taking some action, changing your behaviors a little bit, making sure that you understand those subtle psychologies that I'm going to help you learn, and just nail those down. And that's all there is to it. You'll have no problem being a money person if you can just do those things. So that's what I want to challenge you to do here, is just give this a try, because time passes anyway and you might as well have something to show for it, right? Okay, so that's it for this myth. That's it for the myth of you have to be a money person to make millions in the stock market or make millions investing or make a whole lot of money over the course of your life. It's just not true, and I hope I've been able to convince you of that in this video. Okay, so the next video in this series, the 4 biggest myths of wealth creation, is coming at you in a few days next week. It's coming at you on September 3rd, and that's Wednesday of next week. So that'll be in your inbox if you're a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber, go ahead and get subscribed, and that will be in your inbox. Again, that is Wednesday, September 3rd, that will be in your inbox. Okay, I'll talk to you then.